Hi, this is Dennis Sytsma, and I'm speaking to you from the Redland, an agricultural area. Let me see if I can turn the screen around and see what I'm saying, what I'm doing. Okay. Sorry. Okay, the Dennis Sytsma. I'm in the Redland agricultural area, an area outside of Homestead, Florida City, and Cutler Bay, and Kendall. And this video segment's about restoring my old van and my old boat. I'm combining the series. I may do future segments separately, but right now I want to put a plug in for this book, Fiberglass Boat Restoration, and the author is Captain Wayne Canning, C-A-N-N-I-N-G, and met this guy at the Miami Boat Show, and he has a lot of good tips in his book that anybody considering a restoration should consider, especially the part about having an expert evaluate the project before you invest in it, either buying the vessel, obtaining the vessel from salvage, or any other way. You want to make sure it's a worthy project before you do anything. And his big thing is getting a marine surveyor to give you some expert. And I agree with that, unless you have a real investment in the project. And my project here is my 1994 Astro van, and I bought the vehicle new, and I had it painted by Jorge's Body Shop in Homestead. I got Homestead Upholstery helping me do the interior on the boat, and they just finished the bow section of it. So I'm going to grab the camera and run real quick and show you what we're doing today. And if I can get it to release from the thingamajig here. Couldn't get it in, can't get it out. Okay. Anyway, part of the problem with the van was getting this side door to lock and unlock using the key fob, and got that squared away. Homestead Upholstery in Florida City near the Cracker Barrel just finished doing the front of it here, the seating in the front and the sides, upholstering it, and the interior. The port side we had done prior, but now they've done the starboard side. But the focus of the segment today is to get, I'm trying to rebuild this 1989 Beretta Success 200 with getting all the wood out of it. In years past, with the help of my son, we took out the sole plate and stringers, and I replaced it with 1-inch Divinycell, which is a wonderful product. Divinycell is a great core material that I took the original plywood out, replaced the stringers and sole plate with Divinycell, and it's held up really well. The next part of the project, we did the engine cover in prior segments with Blue Water 26 Coosa board. Now these seat supports that go on either side, you can see these are made out of marine plywood. They're deteriorating. Going to replace those with Coosa board. So to make these, if this was a new boat with a stern drive, they would probably vacuum bag one piece and make the engine box and the seat supports out of one piece of vacuum bagged. But since this is just for one boat project, that would be a lot of work to do that. So it's better that you build an engine box and seat supports like I'm doing, I think. And if you got any comments otherwise, post them to YouTube. But the first part is to take measurements on the old box. And I like to do the sides first and template them out in cardboard or door skin or anything else you might want to do. And in this case, we've got a measurement on the top and a measurement on the bottom, which I'll show you on the template. You measure this out, and it's like 24 inches on the top and less on the bottom, like 20.5 on the bottom, and then the depth is 14.5, which is 13.5, because you have to add a 1/2 inch for the top, 1/2 inch for the bottom. So you take the overall measurements and you take out a 1/2 inch. You draw it out on a piece of cardboard or construction paper. I like this art stuff that I get at the office supply store. Or you can even use door skin if you want. Anything you have available, but I'd like to template things out before I cut them out, because the Kusa board is like $320 a sheet. And now we'll go over to the Kusa board, and you don't need to see me how to cut this out, but you measure very carefully, and then you make the cuts. And you can use a regular saw, a circular saw. The way I did it was I laid it out like one piece here, like that, and marked it, and then I flipped this over and did the next piece and marked it. Next thing I know, I had 4 pieces made, which are the sides. Okay, once you have the sides made, and I need 4 sides because I'm making 2 pedestals, and then the front and the back. And of course the front's a little bit longer than the back because this is at an angle, so this is going to be less than that, and of course adding a 1/2 inch for the thickness. But you do the sides first, then you do the front and the back, which I've already made the front and the back out of Kusa board, and then you put the 4 sides together with small screws, and then you can glass it. But I probably will do the bottom next, and then the top, and then glass it. And when you're done, you'll have 2 new pedestals made out of Blue Water 26 Kusa board. And I'll use the old pedestals until I finish the new one, and then at that point I'll swap them out, and then I'll do the cutouts for the speakers, or I may do the cutouts before I glass it. That way I can do it in one step. But I'm trying to keep this boat ready to go in case I get any winter visitors. We're in South Florida here, and the weather is gloriously warm, and this is my tropical fruit farm out near the Homestead Airport. And I lost 20 trees in Hurricane Irma, and I'm in the process of planting new trees. I want to use good dirt for the new trees, so it's taken me some physical labor to do this. But anyway, I hope you like my series. Please like and share and subscribe. And no hard feelings if you unsubscribe. I don't care. If you like my content, please do like, share, and subscribe. If you're not interested in how to restore an old party boat like this one, and I can't tell you, a 20-foot boat, how many fish and lobster I've caught on this boat. It's incredible what you can do with a small vessel, as long as you keep it ship shape and ready to go. And when we finish the jump seat supports here, and these seats come up and do a nice sun deck where you can sunbathe. And I got plenty of room in here for a coffin box cooler. I'm thinking about maybe a 320 quart cooler to put in here if I get into any serious fishing this summer or this spring. The mahi bite heats up in like May or April, and I'm going to put some, probably going to do some sea deck on the swim platform here in the back, and sea deck where we had the other teak that needs replacement. And again, this is Dennis Sytsma. This is my project boat and my project vehicle, and I hope you like seeing more video in future. But this is where I am right now. It's getting better and better. The more. Now they asked me about doing the sides here. I'll probably leave these ugly for now, but I may upholster them in the future. This is 1/2-inch PVC that I did the sides in years ago, and I like it because it's easy to clean, and the upholstery doesn't go bad if it's not upholstered. So anyway, that's where we are right now. I just need some of my friends or family, so go out and test it. Welcome to sunny South Florida. It's Christmas Eve morning, or yeah, 2018, Christmas Day, 2018. I thought I'd do a quick fit on this starboard side box to make sure that it fit perfectly, because this one, the one I'm fabricating, is a little bit wider than the one I'm replacing. You can see how the one I'm replacing is falling apart. I did this in marine grade plywood in 2007, and before I did the top and bottom, I just did the sides, the front and the back, and it's really imperative that you make sure it's square. And I think it's good to start at the bottom and go to the top. When you square this up, put the screws in to do the front and back and the sides. This is the starboard box on the right, and this is the port box on the left. And because it's wider, it's going to hit those teak handles. And I'll probably take, next time I pass through Orlando, I'll go a little bit north to Ocoee, Florida, where Teak Isle is, and Boat Outfitters, and get them to make me up some new seat supports there. Those handles are made of teak. Get them to make them out of the starboard material, because the teak ones are going. I wanted to get the hatch made up out of starboard, but I had that made up locally out of 1/2-inch expanded PVC, and we put in 3 more pieces underneath to improve it. But anyway, this looks pretty good. It's imperative that you make this square when you're before you glass it. If you did it wrong, take the screws out, drill new holes, start over. But I'm going to take you over to where I'm fabricating the other one. Sorry to the jiggly camera, but I wanted to do this in one short segment. But when you're doing the initial setup on these, you want to let the back piece, the shortest piece, the back piece overhang on a piece of spare Coosa board, blue water, so that when the bottom goes on, you'll have a nice back and a nice front, and you can just fit in the bottom. If you don't have enough Coosa board to do the tops and the bottoms in one piece, just do it in pieces and glass them in, because what's important is the sides and the front and the back to get a good fit. But the way I did it is I let it hang over the back, and I squared it up perfectly, let gravity work for me to hold the square, and then got that bottom screw in, and then did the top screw and then the center screw, and then put in more screws after I had it the way I wanted it. But you want to make sure that this is squared, and run your fingers here to make sure you got a good fit. This is basic cabinet making. Make sure it's square. I took cabinet making at night at the community college, and you can't get the square inside on the inside as easily as you can on the outside, or if you have a smaller square, you can do that, do 2 squares at once. Because I have seen people work on stuff and find out their square wasn't square, and oh, the cussing and fussing when you find out your square isn't square. But now I got the back and the 2 sides on, I can do the front piece pretty easily. And then I'll put that in the boat. I'll do that. And again, starting at the bottom and working to the top. It's a little easier to hold it at the bottom, letting gravity work for you with the square on it. And get those screws in, and then do the bottom, then do the top. Now the top I have to do cutouts, because when this is the one for the batteries, I have to have a cutout on the top that's big enough to put a group 24 battery in and out. I used to run group 27 batteries and 1000 amp hour batteries, but this little 4-cylinder doesn't need that much cranking power, and I'm just wasting money buying the bigger batteries, so I'll probably go with 800 amp hour. It only needs a 600 amp hour battery, and I find the 1000 amp hour, they don't last as long as the 800 do, because there's more spacing in the plates on the battery. Anyway, please like, share, subscribe. Got any questions, please post them. But after I do the front and do the cutout for the speakers, for the stereo speakers, and do the bottom and the top, then I'll glass in 3 sides. Probably do the outside first, then do the inside, then put the top on it, and then glass that after I've got it done with the bottom and the top and the sides, and leave the top for last, and then glass it all in and gel coat it. I have to be very careful that I sand this some, because I've been having some trouble getting a good bite from the fiberglass into the Kusa board. This Kusa board is really designed for like replacing the transoms. That's what it's intended for. But I'm using Kusa board to fabricate this engine box and the seat supports on either side. And you know, if you were doing a production run of stern drives, they would do this in one piece now, using modern fabrication techniques such as vacuum bagging. They'd make a mold and they'd vacuum bag it, and it would be done all at once. So this is for like older boats, like boats made in the 80s and the 90s that had a stern drive, and you want a good engine box and good seat supports on a classic bow rider like I got. And there's a lot of them out there. If you go on the internet, you can get them for a very low price if you're looking for a project boat. But before you start any project, make sure you do a proper assessment on how much it's going to cost and how many man hours. You can take it to places for estimates. You can have a marine surveyor give you an opinion, but don't even buy it unless you have a good idea that you can finish the project, because nobody wants a half-finished project. Once you start putting money into it, you don't want to find out that you can't finish it. My boat, I'm doing it a little here and there, and I use it a little, I work on it a little, I use it a little, I work on it a little, and that's, in South Florida you can do that. You have year-round weather, you can work outdoors when it's not raining or you don't have a tornado or hurricane. Anyway, hope you, but it's important that you set this down, because you see the overlap there. See that overlap? That's how I got that. It's a perfect 1/2 inch to make the, and I'll do that on the front, is the overlap. It'll set down before I put that on. That way when I put the bottom on, it'll be a nice, I won't have any transition for the depth. Anyway, that's it so far. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. It's the day after Christmas, and it's really windy and gloomy, gray skies, overcast like it might rain. So today's a good day to work on the boat as opposed to using the boat. And this video segment is the day after Christmas 2018, and I'm working on the pedestals for the seats that go on either side of the stern drive engine enclosure, engine box, using Blue Water 26 half-inch Kusa board as a fabrication material instead of marine grade plywood. I built these before out of marine grade plywood, and they only last about 10 years or less. So Kusa board doesn't have any organic materials, and it's made out of a high density foam with particles of fiberglass, and also embedded with fiberglass fibers. So I'm going to show you how to cut it today using a standard saw. You want to do this on a day that's cold if you can, so you're not sweating, and you wear a long sleeve shirt and your PPE of hearing protection and breathing protection, because there's a lot of dust and it's itchy fiberglass dust, so you really want to use PPE. The saw I'm using is a standard carpenter's saw with a blade I bought at a hardware store that's a construction level blade. It seems to cut like Kusa board like a hot knife through butter. Does a good job, doesn't dull the blade. So I'll demonstrate that here in a moment, but I want to plug this boat, this book again by Captain Wayne Canning, C-A-N-N-I-N-G, on fiberglass boat restoration. And he has a lot of good advice in this book, and at the back of the boat he has a lot of good internet suggestions for where to get a project boat or to donate a boat to charity. I really think that being an advocate for restoring old boats, because not everybody can afford a new boat, and it's good to start on a project boat and get experience on the water for the maintenance and everything else, because people run out and buy a new boat and then they have a major failure because they don't know how to operate it properly, or they have some other catastrophe, and it's very expensive. And usually selecting the project boat is the most important part, and about a third, 30% of this book is Wayne Canning spends time explaining how you want to carefully select a project boat, not just do any boat. You want to be able to use it or sell it when you're done. And this boat my family bought new in 1989, so I have a lot of reasons why I like the boat to begin with. I've looked at new boats, and I just like how much space and the convenience of this boat compared to other boat layouts and designs. And you can see I've already fabricated the basic box for both sides, the port and starboard side, and then the seat goes on the top. Today I'm going to be cutting the bottom piece, which I've already measured and marked by putting the box on here and marking it carefully where I want to make the cut. For the purpose of the video, I'm only going to do a single cut, but the most important thing is your protection. You don't want to get hurt doing this kind of work, and there's a lot of danger involved in fabrication work and working around boats that people don't appreciate unless you're actually doing this professionally or as a hobbyist. But I have a lot of problems here with breathing, because I have asthma and bronchitis, so you want to make sure that you do this protection. And you want to be able to see your work, so you have to have clean eye protection. And some people wear gloves. I like to be able to feel the saw in my hand, but gloves would be a good idea too. But now that I have this piece cut, I will use my number 6 1.5 inch long screws that I use for the other work here. Number 6 screw. And if you do anything wrong, take it out and re-drill it. Make sure it's square. But the way I made this piece for the bottom is doesn't quite cover the whole area. There's a little gap here. Now I want to put the gap in the back here because I want this box not to hold water. I want it to drain water. So I'll attach this piece with screws and I will move it up so that it drains water at the back, because this is the front that's facing me, this is the back, and when the boat's on the trailer it's usually at a slight incline. The bow's a little bit elevated, so this will drain to the back. And I'll drill a hole in the back too for the wires for the speaker that come in, and also to allow drainage at the back of the box. But because I allowed the 1/2 inch for this piece when I made it, it's going to sit flat like so. See? That's the purpose of the 1/2 inch on the front and the back, was so that I have the right, when I finish it with the top piece, I have a place to put the cushion. And this was one of the favorite places for my father to sit when he was alive. He would go fishing with me and he'd ride in the back of the boat because it was smoother in the back. Sometimes he'd ride in the front. It was a bow rider, but usually he'd sit on the port side and I'd be on the starboard side driving the boat, and we go fishing off Homestead, usually put it in Homestead Bay Front Park, which is the sentimental attachment for this project boat that I'm doing. Was a boat that we bought new in 1989, and it's been through all kinds of restoration work over the years. I had the engine rebuilt by Hialeah Engine Rebuilders, and I had the engine rebuilt by Hialeah Engine Rebuilder off Okeechobee Road, where Hialeah Racetrack used to be back in the day, where we had a racetrack in Hialeah. And 2 brothers rebuilt the engine for me and did a fine job. The stern drive, the Alpha 1's been rebuilt by USA Powerboat in Cutler Bay, or Perrine, whatever you want to call that area there, south of Miami. Cutler Bay is the hoity-toity name, used to be Cutler Ridge. And Homestead Upholstery's helping me redo the interior for the boat. I had cut out the sole plate and stringers in 1997 and replaced it with a 1-inch Divinycell. My objective for this project is to get all the wood out of the boat and go with modern core materials that don't deteriorate like plywood does. even the best marine grade plywood doesn't hold up as well as the new core materials, the Blue Water 26 Coosa board, the Vinicel. I don't have any experience with Penske board or Nitacore, but I hear they're good too. Please ask questions, comment, subscribe and share if you like this video series. And if you hopefully we'll get this project boat ready pretty soon here. We're moving right along with the interior work. Some of it I'm going to leave ugly intentionally, but that's how you cut the Coosa board. And this Coosa board comes in 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, up to inch and 1.5 inches. And the Coosa board was designed as a product for rebuilding transoms, rotted out transoms on boats. There's other products like C-cast that you can use for curved transoms. I don't know how to do a curved transom using these other materials, but anyway, cover. Please, if you know a way that I don't, I'll add it to my playlist. Thanks for watching. Hello, this is Dennis Sytsma, Homestead, Florida, in the Redland agricultural area. This is an update video segment on rebuilding my old boat, a 1989 Beretta Success 200 bow rider. And we've made some progress. The front seats have been redone by Homestead Upholstery. A nice border bolster around it. And the port and starboard side, the helm have been done. I've been working on this for over a year now in bits, fits and starts, but I've got the engine cover, the doghouse for my stern drive, finished, and you see how it has seats on either side that I'm building pedestals for out of Coosa board. So this Blue Water 26 1/2 inch Coosa board, hindsight. And of course the cover comes up nicely and is removable with hinges. I need to build new pedestals, and I've got that work in progress out of Coosa board. And these seats are also set up so that they can be set up and make a on the back to make a place for sunbathing, but these are deteriorating, and I need to replace these with Coosa board. So the next step is this is the starboard side. I went to Walmart, spent $1 and bought some paper and templated out new covers to fit the engine box. And I marked them back side and front side and top side and bottom side. I like to do this in paper first so that I get a good fit in paper before I cut it in Coosa board, because the Coosa board's rather expensive. If I had to do this project again, I'd probably do it in 1 inch Coosa board instead of 1/2 inch. But I can glass this up and make it stronger or add some Vinicel. It's not that it's fragile, it's just delaminating here in some places, and I need to do a better job of getting the fiberglass to stick to the Coosa board somehow. And so we got these back jump seats, and I call them jump seats because people like to ride the back. It's very it has the least pounding in the back. And I have to do these tops so that I have enough room to get a group 24 battery in here. And I've done this template as for the top, for the front and the back, and all of that, so that it fits. And this is the top. Okay. This is the top. That's the back, and these were $1 each at Walmart. And I may have a flaw here, and I've got it marked. I need to even double check this, because it looks like it's the other way around. No, that's starboard. This is, oh, I got port and starboard transposed. Knew there was something off here. This is the starboard side. That's the port side. And so this will go top, port, and that's the back. And this is a perfect fit. Now the reason I did this in paper instead of just measuring is for just the reason I pointed out. It's easy to get confused. And the old boxes are like 16-inch wide, and the new boxes are 18-inch wide because there was a gap, and that was wasted space. So the new ones I'm making as 18 inches wide instead of 16. And this is starboard side, top, and that's the back. And now everything's a perfect fit. And now I can take these two pieces I've done in paper, and I can take them over to where I'm working. And excuse the shaky camera work, I'm an old guy, and a tripod is nice, but wouldn't let me move like this where I'm doing the work. And over here, excuse me, but we live near an airport, so there's the the new boxes I'm fabbing, and I got the bottoms and the sides and the front and back done, and they're marked port and starboard. And the next step will be for me to put them both facing up top, and then mark this good, and then cut this good. And I was hoping I had a strip Akusa board left to do some other project, but also this lets me lay this out for maximum use of the piece by doing it in paper and then marking the Akusa board. And there's a good little breeze today, so things don't want to lay down for me, but I'll mark them and then cut them and then put the tops on. Then after that, I can mark the front speakers on port and starboard. I need to order the speakers yet. I'm going to put in kicker speakers, I think. And on the back, we want to mark and drill a hole for the wires and to drain water. And then we'll glass everything up after. When I got it just the way I want it, that's when we'll glass it. So that's the update for today. Yeah, I've been working on this project on and off for over a year. So yes, projects take a lot of time. More time than you ever imagined, and probably more money than you budget, which is a good reason why you should carefully select your project boat. Just don't do any boat, because you can spend $10,000 on a 1990s or year 2000 bow rider stern drive, and the boat may not be worth $10,000. So you have to either pick your project so you can fix it and sell it if it's a good, really good project boat, or you need to figure this is an investment and I'm going to spend this money on a project boat as opposed to buying a new boat. And if you use these modern materials and you build it right, you may end up with things even better than if you had bought a boat, as far as layout and the materials used and all that. So that's my update on the project. Please like, share, and subscribe. And the subscribe aspect is important if I ever get a big viewership. Right now I don't have too many viewers, and YouTube requires a lot of subscribers and a lot of views before they think you're a major contributor. So you want to subscribe, and if you decide to unsubscribe, that's okay. Hopefully you like what I'm doing here. And a friend of mine asked me, why am I doing this? And I said, well, I'm hoping to help somebody who might want to take on a project boat and restore a fiberglass boat And there's so many of these available for like $100 or free, or a small amount. You look on the internet, you see 20-foot fiberglass boats everywhere. But carefully pick your project. A lot of these boats are not worth investing anything in, and you don't want to spend the first dime on it. But that's why Captain Wayne Canning's book is good. He's got a lot of good tips in there, and I keep plugging his book. Anyway, hope you enjoy it. See you next time. Okay, this is yet another update. This is Dennis Sytsma in Homestead, Florida, in the Redland agricultural area, Redland. And I cut the tops per how I had measured with the paper. And I had taken all measurements from the very back piece, from the back, because that's the one that's at 90 degrees, and there's a slight incline for the one in the front, and the incline is just for aesthetics. So you know, when you're sitting there on the cushion, your heels aren't hitting the box, and to give a place for the speakers. But I haven't actually done the cutout on the speakers yet, but I did the tops, and unfortunately I made, even though I'd done it in paper, and I'd done it from paper from the very back to the very front in paper, so the cutouts would be properly centered, I forgot that I had added, I don't know why I did this, but I had a ½ inch above on the both front and the back. So when I went to fit the tops, they were actually too long. So what I had to do was put it up against the back and then scribe it along the front and then do a cut. And once I had the cut made on the scribe, I took one of the pieces I'd cut away and made another ½ inch mark. And when I was done with the two cuts, I'd wasted some of this very expensive material, but I ended up with a good fit for front and back. And again, I don't know why I went up like this. I guess when I did the front and the back, I was very concerned that I had 14½ inches from top to bottom when it was finished, and that was because I wanted the exact height that the old boxes were, because if you get them too high, they hit the handles, and if they're too low, they're not as comfortable. But even with all my measurements in the paper, I still got a little piece sticking up here where my finger is that I'm probably going to have to take a smaller saw and cut it off, or sand it down. Take a grinder, probably just take a grinder, because it's just a little lip there sticking up in the back on that one side. And so once I put these screws in and I make the marks for the speakers in the front, and I do the wires for the speaker wires in the back and the drain, which would just be a little hole there in the back on each side. When I do that, then I'll be ready to start doing the first layer of fiberglass on both the inside and out. And I'll probably start with 1.5 ounce glass mat, which has no structure to it, just to make sure I get a good bond after I sand this. I want to sand it all around first to make sure there's nothing to prevent adhesion, and do 1.5 ounce glass mat as a first coat, and then go in with the structural fiberglass later, and then the gel coat. And I'll probably do the same thing to the engine box too. But anyway, that's what the pedestals look like so far. 90 degrees in the back, an angle at the front, and then the cushions just set on top. And the cushions have pieces of small pieces that align it with this outline on the box. And these are different size, slightly differently laid out, because I wanted to accommodate storage in the starboard side box, which is starboard, SB starboard side, and on the port side I had a good cutout for a Group 24 battery, which is a little bit wider, to put the Group 24 in and out. I used to use Group 27 batteries, but it was just a waste of money to get Group, you know. This little 4-cylinder 3.7 liter Mercury only needs like 560 or 550 cranking hours, and even using the Group 24,000 amp hour battery is overkill. But anyway, here's the leftover pieces. This is the waste that I didn't need. I try to use all of this expensive composite material to advantage, whether I'm working in Divinycell or Cusa board. I try not to waste any of it, and I have some left over. I had hoped I had like a long piece, because I need like on the bolsters on the port and starboard side I need a long piece, and in the back I need a long piece. So I may have to buy yet another full sheet of Cusa board, and I may go with a heavier, instead of 1/2 inch, I may go the next size up, whatever that is, on Blue Water 26 Cusa board. Anyway, that's where we are so far, and I've been working on this project for over a year now, between the engine box and the rear pedestals, and taking a cabinet making, woodworking and cabinet making course really helps on learning these skills. Back in the day, the state of Florida had really inexpensive vocational night classes, and then one day they decided that there were too many snowbirds and too many retirees and too many hobbyists, instead of people that were really seeking vocational skills. So they increased the price of the classes terrifically. And it's a shame, because we used to be really nice to take these courses at night at your local high school or your junior high or elementary school or your Votech center, and attain these skills. And if I had my way, I'd have them drop the price, make it more affordable. And but I learned a lot by taking these courses with my father-in-law, who was a master craftsman, and taking cabinet making courses and woodworking with my friend John Austin, who's passed away as well. Both guys taught me a lot about woodworking and cabinet making. But the most important thing is have a square that's square. Make sure your square is square, and I believe there are places you can have a square trued if it's out of square, because John Austin had one that was out of square, and we were cutting some really nice oak with it, and they were off, and we ended up having to fix it. And I told John Austin to throw a square away, and he said it was his granddaddy's, he wasn't going to throw it away, he'd make it an antique. And but when making these cuts, be very careful that you use PPE. I didn't videotape me cutting stuff because I wanted to focus on the work instead of filming. But you want to make sure that you rotate the work. And I had to move this table around in a circle several times to get the sunlight on it right, so I could actually see the line. And modern saws will have a laser pointer on it. Older saws will have an indication mark, and you have to actually watch where the blade is cutting and make sure the two don't wander while you're making the cut, and go slow so you can make any corrections when you're pushing through the work. But wear proper PPE for your eyesight, your hearing, and your breathing. And I don't know if you want to wear gloves or not, but PPE will save you from having a bad day. And I've been injured a couple times already, even with being very careful. Once I fell off the roof of this house and fractured my spine in 3 places. Oh, that hurt. That was bad. And once I was working around the grove here, trimming some tropical fruit trees, and got a chainsaw into my thumb, and that still has, even though it's healed, I still don't have this, I'm kind of numb part of the thumb. But one night I was using a router in the wood shop and got a hold of my knuckle, and fortunately it didn't hurt anything. I just shredded my knuckle. So I'm a firm believer in PPE and taking your time that you don't get hurt. And these are the pedestals made out of Blue Water 26 half-inch Kusa board. And next we'll be glassing them and then gel coating them after I've ordered the speakers. They haven't arrived yet. This is Dennis Sytsma in Homestead, Florida, in the Redland agricultural area. And in this video segment today, I've taken my 6-inch circular sander and I've sanded off I did a light sanding on the Kusa board on the rear seat pedestal replacement project for my project boat on 1989 Beretta Success 200. But I did a light sanding to remove any release agent that might be left on the Kusa board that would prevent the 1.5 ounce chopped strand mat that I'm going to use to get a good bite into it. And I've already drilled out the holes for the speaker. I decided to go with Kicker speakers this time. Kicker Marine speakers. I think they're KB60s. And the guy at the factory said cut a hole 5 3/16 for a 6.5-inch speaker. And if you saw the old speakers that came out of here, out of the other ones, I mean out of the other pedestals, you'll see that they were shot. And those were Sony Marine. They were only about a year old. And before that I had polyplanar. But I'm going to try Kicker Marine speakers this time, see how it works out. I have not sanded the inside yet, because I can't really get the disc sander in there, so I'll have to use some hand sanding when I find my sanding block and my auto body supplies. And I've sanded off the edges smooth on all corners and made sure the box is square. And then I drilled a small hole in the back to drain any buildup, because when I glass this crack in the back will probably be glassed over, so the only drain hole will be that hole there for the speaker wires. And this is a starboard side box, and it's used for storage for my spare propeller, propeller wrench, Carter keys, any spare lamps, which I'm going to LED lamps, most of it on the boat, so don't quite need those as often with the LED ones. And my fluids, my extra coolant, 50/50 Prestone coolant, and my power steering fluid, extra motor oil. It all goes in the starboard side. The port side goes my batteries, and there's the port side box over there. We're expecting a cold front later today, so I probably won't glass these today, because usually before a cold front we get rain. So and I got to find my sanding block for my auto body. And after I do the 1.5 ounce fiberglass, I'll probably go with 1 coat of structural biaxial. I forget the name of it. I think it's 1108 or something like that, biaxial. And go with 1 coat of that and then glass it, because I don't know how, I want it to be able to support somebody heavy who jumps on the cushion with full scuba gear. Like the engine box, I wanted substantially strong as well. The original boxes from Beretta were marine grade plywood, which holds moisture and gets heavier over time and eventually fails, whereas I hope this Kusa board has a very, very low absorption rate and doesn't deteriorate the way organic materials do. This is a high density foam, an expanded foam, high density Kusa board, Blue Water 26, and it's got 2 layers of fiberglass in there that I can see, and this is all fiberglass ground up, mixed with the foam. So I'm sure some structural engineer somewhere is really proud of this stuff. I like it because I can use it, I can build with it like plywood. But these cutouts, the way I did these is took a compass like you'd find in any office supply store or where they sell school supplies, and did it on paper first, with just a piece of paper, and drew a circle 5 3/16 from one side to the other. So that's diameter. Radius would be half that, so it'd be 2.5 plus 1.5 16ths, whatever that is. So I made sure it was 5 3/16 diameter when I drew it on paper. I made a mistake, you just draw it again. Then I cut it out with scissors. Then I laid it out on construction paper that I got at Walmart for $1. And I paid $5 at the office supply house, so I think Walmart's a better deal where to buy the construction paper. And cut it out, and then I laid the construction paper, took a marker and did a full circle for the speaker, and then I made sure the speaker would lay in. And in the shade here, but I can show you the old speakers. These old speakers were 6-inch, and I don't know why some manufacturers make 6-inch marine speakers and others do 6.5. I guess 6.5 is more popular, but these are the Sony speakers. These were XS-MP 1611, which had good power ratings and they were good priced, but you can see that they don't last in the boat very long. I'm sure they'd still play, but this is the real work part of the speaker, is where it goes in and out to make sound. And if with this ruptured, they can't make the same with the same efficiency the amount of sound. And I've installed the kicker speakers on the port and starboard in the front already, and I have the old Sony speakers in the pedestal boxes in the back right now, and when I finish glassing these pedestals, finish glassing them and gel coating them and finishing them, putting them in the boat, that's when we'll start using them. And this is really dirty when you sand it. The fiberglass goes everywhere. So it's good to do it on a cool day where your pores aren't open, you're not sweating if you can, if it's a cold day. And wear a long sleeve shirt and your protection for your breathing, your eyes, and your hearing. Because this stuff gets everywhere when you sand it. So anyway, that's the segment for today. I probably will not fiberglass this today because I really don't want to get into doing the fiberglass work until I'm ready to do everything inside and out. So I'll probably push that off until I can finish sanding the inside. And the sanding again is to get any release agent, that residue that might be left when they manufactured the Kusa board. You want a good bite between the 1.5 ounce fiber mat and I didn't sand it when I did the doghouse, so I may have to sand that down to the Cusa board and then redo the 1.5 ounce and then the structural fiberglass and then the gel coat. I may have to redo the engine box because it's starting to delaminate, and I'm trying to address that with some 2-part epoxy at the spots it's delaminating, but I wished I had sanded it before I put on the first coat of fiberglass. I wish I had given it a good sanding like this.